Thanks again for joining us this evening. My name is Jessie Wachter, one of the Global Programs Advisors for Rustic Pathways. Essentially, my role is to help families find the best fit program. I've worked with Rustic Pathways for about 11 years now. I just passed my 11-year mark. I was formerly the director of our Tanzania programs, and now, like I said, I work with families to find the best fit program because I've led programs in about 10 different countries for Rustic Pathways throughout my tenure. So happy to answer any and all questions about programs as you begin your hunt. I do have a whole team of Global Programs Advisors that we're happy to answer those questions tonight. We are going to focus on safety, and I do want to introduce our special guest tonight, which is Dave Dennis.
Thanks, Jesse. Hi, everyone. Dave Dennis here. I am the Director of Safety and Risk Management at Rustic Pathways. I've been with Rustic Pathways for just under 5 years at this point. I've been in the industry for about 24 years now, so quite a long time. But not only am I in charge of risk and safety at Rustic Pathways, I'm also a parent of 2 kids who both travel with Rustic as well. So as I talk to you this evening, it's both as Director of Risk and Safety, but also as a parent.
I'm going to go over a little bit about what to expect on this webinar as we begin here. We are going to talk a little bit about Rustic Pathways. If you're brand new to our company, just to kind of give you some background of what we do and who we are. We'll talk about the chaperone flight deadline. If you haven't been to our website recently, there's a banner across the top. The deadline is coming up on April 14th, and there's actually a link that you can click into and read some more information about what that exactly means, but I'll also talk on this presentation. We will be introducing safety at Rustic Pathways, hence Dave Dennis, the before your team travels information, during travel with students and families for both students and parents, and international SOS, travel insurance, all the really good information that you should know before choosing a program, before working with Rustic Pathways, to get a better idea of like how we put this all together. I will touch a little bit on how to enroll once you get ready, and hopefully this answers all of your questions about safety, and then you'll be ready to enroll right at the end. And then we will save some time at the end of this presentation for questions and answers. As we go through the presentation, if anything arises, please feel free to send in your questions in the little chatter question box, because we'll either get to them through the presentation, or like I said, at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time to get to your questions. So as you think of any questions, put them in that box. Like I said, a little bit of history about Rustic Pathways. We have been around as a company for about 37 years now. We have about 100 different programs in 20 different countries, more or less. We do see ourselves as the intersection between education, travel, and philanthropy. This is a really pivotal time in students' lives to be traveling. Our programs range from age 12 to 22. So we have middle school, high school, and college summer programs in addition to our gap year programs. So there really is a big range in programming. About 75% of our programs are service oriented. Then we also have education programs and adventure programs. And then we also have a lot of programs that are a combination thereof. So there's really a wide variety of programming for every student. But we know that in addition to the how difficult it can be to choose a program that's best fit for your student, some of the biggest questions come down to safety. I mean, the world is crazy these days, and parents have a lot of very valid concerns. They come to us wanting to ask those questions. We have actually put out a lot of really great resources. In fact, we have a whole blog post about different types of safety questions you should ask, not only Rustic Pathways, but any company that you're considering working with, especially when your student is young and they're just venturing out to the rest of the world for the first time, at least first time without their family. There's a lot of really great questions to ask. So hopefully we'll go through some of that in this presentation. And then if we don't get to that, we will have time at the end, like I said, or if you think of something at the end of this presentation, we will be sending out this recording, and you can always give us a call afterwards, and we're happy to walk through that. I did want to mention the chaperone group flight deadline that I said before. It's April 14th, and essentially what this is our programs, if you're coming from the United States, you are only responsible for travel to the hub airport, which depends on the destination. It could be Los Angeles, Houston, Miami, Newark, or New York in JFK. And that is for US-based students. Once you get to the hub airport, you will be met by our airport coordinators and the flight chaperones that will escort the whole group through the check-in process, all the way through security to their destination until they meet their staff in country. We do this again for safety purposes, and Dave will go into a little bit more about why we do this, but essentially after April 14th, the contracts that we have with the airlines they start asking us to release those reserved seats. So sometimes as early as September, October, we've reserved up to about 100 seats on a flight, depending on the destination. Our more popular destinations like Costa Rica and Thailand, we have huge blocks of students flying together. They allow us to do this up until a certain point without putting names down, and so that we can guarantee all of our students fly together with our chaperone and stay together as a group and don't have to try to navigate the airports and get to an international destination on their own. But after a certain point in the spring, the airlines come back to us and say, if you haven't used those seats, give them back because we want to put them back out on the market. So really the best time to enroll would be before this deadline. After that, it's still possible to enroll, but it's a case-by-case basis whether we still have a seat available, first of all, on the contract, and then once we get closer to the summer, whether we can still even purchase it on the open market. And at that point, the price may fluctuate. So right now we have a set price if you purchase it in September or March into April or so. And then after that, like I said, it just varies on the destination and on your departure date. So a lot of information there. It just gets a little bit more complicated after April 14th. So try to get your enrollment for that so that you know your student is flying safely with our chaperones. And then I'm gonna have Dave introduce our safety team.
Fantastic, thanks Jesse. You know, I'm really supported by a fantastic team, and I can't overemphasize the level of commitment and that Rustic has put into the safety team. So obviously, you know, I act as a safety and risk management director. We have also a medical director and a mental health director. Dr. Will Smith is our medical director. He's got a huge background. He's a legendary and a pioneer within the wilderness medicine field. He's also the director of the National Park System here in the US. So a lot of credentials, very respected in his industry. Dr. David Baker as well owns his own practice. He's based out of Florida, and he works with families, adults, and children as well, really focusing in on that. And we use both Dr. Will and Dr. Baker as we're preparing students for travel, if something happens on program and we have some questions, they're a really great resource, and they help design our protocols as well. My right-hand man is Pete Brown. He's our Global Risk and Safety Manager. He has been in the industry for 20 years as well, has a lot of risk management certifications, a lot of experience as well in the industry. And then Ann Dunphy is really special to our team because she's our participant screening manager. Ann hails from 30 plus years as an emergency medical technician on an ambulance. She's also a wilderness medicine instructor. So she takes the time, her and her team, to look at every medical form that comes in and make sure students are enrolled. That's our collective team.
Yeah, and I think that role is one that, as Rustic Pathways, as far as I know, we're one of the only companies that does have a team dedicated to screening every single student that comes through our system to make sure that they're on the right program, that we have all the information that we need. Students have so many needs. You know, they may have dietary needs, they may have certain allergies. We are prepared for all of them, but we want to make sure that they are on the right fit program and that our program leading staff are prepared with the right information. So I think it's awesome that we have Anne, and she works very hard to go through. We have thousands and thousands of students travel with us, and she and her team go through all those medical forms. If you have any questions about a particular specific issue, we're happy to connect you with Dave or with anybody that makes sense. So first of all, starting off in your process, as you look into programs, what are some of the things that parents should know before they enroll in a program, before they travel?
Well, I get a lot of questions about the accommodations, the food and the meals, just what does that look like as well. So maybe I start there. So our accommodations, we have a range of hotels and homestays and camping and bunkhouses as well. So there's variances depending on the types of programs that people are interested in or decide to take. All varies that accommodation on what that style and what those preferences are. On the topic of homestays, I get a lot of questions about that and how do we make sure homestays are safe. All of our service providers, including our homestays, go through a vetting process. This just means that we evaluate them as an organization, as a business, and make sure they align with our safety protocols and are responsible and reputable businesses as well.
Just a quick note to jump in as you are looking through our website. On every single program page, if you scroll down past the available dates, you'll see the complete day-to-day itinerary. Next to that, there'll be packing list, and next to that is an FAQ section, which will actually have a bunch of really valuable information about that program. And the very first question is, what are the accommodations on this trip? As Dave mentioned, there's a variety of options, and some of the programs have 2 or 3 different kinds of accommodations, so you can find that information in the FAQs on the program page.
Fantastic. So food and water is simple. We provide all of the food. It's either bottled water or filtered water. We just ask for that students bring a reusable water bottle, and then we will provide the endless supply of that water while everyone's traveling. Food is really important. We like to kind of walk the line and challenge kids to try different foods. It's part of the experience and traveling, but that's into what Anne does with her team and that screening process with students. So if there's dietary needs, that could be allergy restrictions, it could be food preferences or religious beliefs, whatever those restrictions or limitations may look like. Again, Anne takes that time, finds out about what we communicate that to the team, and even in most of our programs, the actual cooks for those meals as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of step back to the types of accommodations, one of the questions we get a lot when students do have very specific dietary needs, we often point them at first, I mean, they're the only programs, but one of the types of programs to look into are base house programs. And base houses are properties that we own and operate. We also then can guarantee that we have our own chefs, and our chefs are super used to accommodating different types of dietary needs. They may cook for, kosher, or for students who are vegetarians or vegans, depending on the program. So we can accommodate a lot more at the base house programs. Can to some of the programs that go a little bit more off the beaten path, like Mongolia or something like that. So we do have programs that are a little bit more geared toward able to accommodate more extreme dietary needs.
That's exactly right. The other point I wanted to touch on is I get a lot of questions about vaccinations and what does my son or daughter need to think about, or how do we need to prepare in this sense. So Rustic Pathways is not able to give vaccination advice because we're not a licensed medical professional. We do have Dr. Will, of course, but we have a resource through International SOS, who I'll explain a little later. But we do have resources on our website that veer you to the Centers for Disease Control. We also utilize the World Health Organization. We help prepare you in vaccination and those needed kind of medications through those outside agencies. So we'll handhold you to. Excuse me.
Yeah, and this is a good time to be tuning in. I'm so glad that you have, if you're watching this as a recording, it's also a good time to start thinking that some of the destinations do have required vaccinations, others have recommended vaccinations. So when you do get enrolled, like Dave said, we'll point you to travel doctors or to WHO organization or various different resources to make sure that you get the best information before summer when you're kind of in a rush to get everything put together.
That's right. Go ahead.
Yeah. On to the next slide.
Sure.
So once you are fully prepared and you're ready to go out on your travel, what are some things parents and families and students should be aware of while they're traveling?
Sure. So in preparation for travel, right, because safety, security is a big component of everything that we do within the team and within our country teams. Every program that we have has a risk management plan that's specific to that program and the hazards and risks that we know about or can anticipate. These risk management plans are developed in collaboration with security teams, advisors. We look at the routes that we take, the itineraries, and again, we create those plans with those known risks and hazards and actually create action plans. So if somebody was to get sick or need support somewhere or find medications or whatever that may look like, that is all covered within these plans, including contact lists and vetted hospitals, everything along those lines. That's passed on to our program team, the program leaders on the ground. And then we have the support resources in every country to help along with any kind of incident that might take place.
And I usually point out that it's not only for every program, but it's actually for every day on the program. Our program leaders know how far they are from a clinic or from a hospital, if something were wrong, exactly where they would need to go, what doctors to speak to, that kind of thing.
Yep. Let me see, what else do we have here? Again, when we're at the topic of incidents and what is to happen, so I'd like to talk about that. As I mentioned, we have a support team within every country that we travel. And what that means is there's an actual operations team, a management structure that is there supporting all of the programs on the ground. So a program leader will have a resource to call and a support team behind them. So if minor things are taking place or they have challenges or we get different adjustments, all is housed there in country as well. If anybody becomes ill on program, we have certain protocols in place. So aside from going through that escalation process, simple, easy things are, if a student has traveler's diarrhea or is ill for a short period of time,
It happens.
it happens. We have those processes in place, but we will also inform parents. We won't go to a clinic or a hospital without informing parents. And then during that visit and follow-up and any kind of that information, we are very, very good about communicating from the program leader or the management team there in country to the parents as well. So I'm really proud of how we inform parents and keep them updated on what's happening on the ground.
In a given summer, Dave, I know you have experience working with teams from all over the world. How often would you say that kids get sick, and the kids have more serious injuries or things that need clinics and hospitals?
Sure. So over the data we've been tracking last many years, we have a very small percentage that have incidents, and anything from a minor cut or a rash or something or a clinic visit. If we're looking specifically at an overnight in a hospital or medical facility, that's less than 1% of our traveling population.
And I don't know if we have about 12,000, or give or take, students travel. So that's a pretty small fraction.
That is absolutely. I will mention as well that the commitment we have for incident response, we also have a design crisis response team. That is, in case there's a regional event or something larger scale, we a full team of our executive team, our vice presidents, our directors, a designated, responsibilities, roles, and actions, and that's completed into course. But we also update that and we run simulations at least twice a year as well, which include our country teams and our crisis response team as well. So it's always front of mind. It's always something we're practicing and rehearsing as well.
I got to be an actor one year.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Awesome. Okay, so that was for the students on the program, and then we are going to talk about during travel, what kind of systems do we have in place for parents?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mentioned the fluid communication with clinic visits and whatnot. Communication to parents is very important, and I feel that whenever my kids travel as well. I always want to find out what they're doing, and we do kind of employ a limited cell phone access or usage with students. What that means is we want them to engage. We don't want them to be hovering over their phones. And this is a moment, this is experience that, they may not ever have that opportunity again. So that's important to us. What that does is that puts the burden on us to keep parents informed. So we always provide a safe arrival email. So when students arrive into country, there's going to be an email that comes out within 24 hours, but it's usually a lot more timely than that. We have invested a lot this year in our communications team. We're looking at every 1 to 3 days having short snippet, pictures, little comments of this is what your son or daughter is up to. We're going to provide that every 1 to 3 days throughout the program. It obviously depends on the remoteness of the program as well. So our most remote program, off the map, they're traveling, they're in remote areas. That would be probably the further out on the communication side of things. But we are very fluid. We have made a poignant aspect and investment this year to increase that communication.
Yeah, we know it's really important to families. I just want to reiterate a couple things that Dave just mentioned. The safe arrival emails, every year we have parents that are watching the clock eagerly for 7:57 when that flight is supposed to land, and then at 7:58 if we have an email, they're worried that something's wrong. We just want to make sure that that you will absolutely receive this communication, but we want to make sure that they have passed through customs, that they have all their luggage, there's no issues. That process can take a little while, and we usually send that email off when the students are either en route or have reached their base house or their hotel, so that we know the whole process has gone smoothly and we can safely send that email out to parents. So give us a few hours. Like you said, within 24 hours, usually I would say in my experience, it's within 4 to 8 hours after they've landed, but we'll be able to get that email out just to make sure that we're not sending an email out too prematurely that we've lost some luggage and we didn't know that. So that's one thing. And then speaking about the communication cycle, cell phones. This is a really common question with parents. How often are our kids going to have access to their cell phones? And we have a wide range of, some parents want zero access and they're used to their summer camp that they literally take the phones away from them. Other parents can't imagine sending their kids halfway across the world without being able to text them every hour. So we understand there's a lot of different expectations with our programs. As a company, it's something that we're ever evolving on, but we do want students to kind of really get the best and most out of their experience and fully immerse themselves and be present and be with their friends and not on social media and with their friends back home. So it's helpful from a parent's perspective if you also sort of underscore that with your kids, that you don't want them on their phones. We do have cell phone free sessions that are actually 100% cell phone free. But if you don't see that little insignia next to your session, then most of our programs, the students will have access at various times, not during any group activities, no meals, no service projects, things like that, but usually in the morning and evening, they can send a quick text home. But for the most part, we like to say no news is good news. You'll hear from us. You can always reach us. We have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline that you can reach us at any point if you have an emergency, and we can put you in touch with our staff on the program if necessary. But we have those systems in place so that the students can kind of stay out of it and they can really be there in their program absorbing it all.
That's right. I'm glad you touched on the 24-hour phone as well, because that's a really important part of both our risk and safety team, but just that communication flow with parents. So if there's ever a need where a parent needs to reach out to their child while traveling, they can call that line. We can get in contact with the country team and even the program leader on the ground and relay that communication as well. Also, if there's concerns or you may hear from your son or daughter while traveling, that's also a good resource for us as well to acknowledge what's happening on the ground and make sure that the care is being provided.
Yep. And we are obviously trying to improve the communication from on the ground, but just also have patience from us coming from a program leader. Our number one priority is the students, obviously. And so it's somewhat down the priority list to be able to get to a computer that has internet connection and send that communication. We know it's important for you guys. You are obviously very invested in their experience as well. And we'll do the best we can, but give us a few days if you haven't heard from us, because we are hopefully on the ground focusing on the students.
Absolutely.
Anything else for this slide?
I think we're good.
Okay. So international SOS and travel insurance.
Perfect. So international SOS is a leader in emergency evacuation, medical advice, and global security. When I mentioned earlier about vaccinations and we have this reliable resource, that is international SOS. Every student that travels, every family that a student that travels with us is provided a membership to international SOS. What that means is as you're preparing for travel, if there's particular types of medication that your son or daughter may be on and you have questions about what that availability might look like or something in country, international SOS is the absolute resource to go to for that, very customized in what that service provides. On the ground, if we have a student that has a pesky rash or something that we're kind of concerned about, don't know if we need to go to a clinic or whatnot, we're sitting on the fence, it's one phone call out to International SOS, and they are a medical service provider on the ground as well. So that's where we've gotten our vetted hospitals and clinics from as well as their services. But again, they have an entire medical and nursing team that we rely on a regular basis. Again, like I said, simple things all the way up to larger scale issues that may or may not happen. On the emergency evacuation side, it's, they are professionals in this. What that service looks like is if there was a situation where we had an evacuation, whether it was air evacuation or ambulatory or something, we would make one phone call to SOS. They would make all those arrangements, and we're then able to focus on the stabilization and security of everybody there on the ground. Those services, from the medical advisement, the on-the-ground advisement for those, pesky conditions or whatnot, all the way through that emergency transport and evacuation, is covered expenses through International SOS. The point to note here is SOS is not travel insurance. So an easy way to think about it is, if SOS helps us get to a hospital, once a student or a staff member enters that hospital or clinic, that's where the travel insurance piece comes in. So I very strongly advocate that families check to make sure that your domestic insurance does connect with international travel, and that would be a covered expense if the event ever came up. And if it doesn't, then we partner with TripMate, but there's lots of other travel insurance providers that are out there. We recommend TripMate because I personally have audited all of our programs and included activities with TripMate, and we know there's no exceptions. So as you're checking into another company, if it's not TripMate, just ask about those limitations, what would be covered, what wouldn't, and just use your catalog or the trip itinerary as a reference point.
Insurance can be tricky, and so that's one thing that we really do like. We get a lot of questions about, well, I already have it with my credit card, which could totally cover everything, but with this, it's fairly affordable. TripMate is. It's
Absolutely.
based on the number of days the student is traveling, and they do guarantee that they cover all of our activities.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I can show you on the website as well once we get to that point where you can find that information, which I'm going to pop over there right now. And just when you get to the point where you are ready to enroll, here's our main website. There's an Enroll Now button here right top right corner, easy to find. It'll take you over to the application. The application is pretty straightforward. It's maybe 6 pages. There's one for the student information, one for parent information, so it goes pretty quickly. And at the end of the application, you'll actually see the optional insurances. One of them is cancellation insurance, and one of them is TripMate health coverage. And there's actually a link on that application where you can click through and see everything that is covered. TripMate covers not only health things, so visits to clinics, medications, things like that, but also travel expenses, so delayed flights, lost baggage, that kind of thing. So it's sort of an all-encompassing travel coverage. And if you go back to our website, a couple talking about health and safety once we get back to the main page. We do have a health and safety page on the website, especially for those who want to read a little bit more about our policies and protocols that we have in place. If you click the menu in the top right corner, this Inside Rustic column is super helpful. Lots of really good links, including the health and safety page right here. The blog, you can search the blog actually for key terms, information about particular programs, or the safety measures that I said we recommend. Dave has actually written and featured several blogs in the magazine, so that's there. You can learn about our flights and travel, the way we arrange our flights and travel, how to enroll. All of this is really great information for you guys. So I'm going to go into the FAQs here. Tons and tons of information. We have resources. We have other webinars that have talked about various topics. We offer webinar pretty much every week at this point, leading up to the summer. So there's that you can tune into. We do have a ton of information about international SOS that Dave just spoke about, travel questions, insurances, that kind of thing, all can be found in the FAQ section. So I haven't seen very many questions roll in. If you just joined us, there should be a little question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to send those in now. I think we have some time for questions and answers. I do want to have you guys take a quick screenshot of this page. This is a special code that we're offering you. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. We're not done yet. Don't leave just yet. But as a thank you, we wanted to give you 10% off of your program. This is valid usually for about 72 hours. It looks like through this weekend. So through Sunday, you will be able to get 10% off of any program which you enroll. So like I said, screenshot this now so you can save that. It's good through the end of this weekend. And we now have some time for questions and answers. One question coming in, it looks like, what type of plane are they taking to Costa Rica for surf and service? So for Costa Rica, I can answer this one. We do work with United. The hub airports are Newark and Houston. So it's a large plane. I don't know the number of it, but it's a jet. It's a jet you would fly to Costa Rica with United.
Commercial flights.
Commercial flights, yeah.
Yep.
So that is hopefully answering your question. And then can you expand on food allergies and how that's managed, especially peanut allergies?
Yep, absolutely. So again, I'll revert back to the screening process and the importance of honesty and transparency in completing that information. Because what we do with that information is it's done in the purest form of creating this safe environment for everybody's children. So if we come across a food allergy, particularly to tree nuts and peanuts, again, Ann Dunphy and her team will be reaching out and learning more about the history of the allergy. What type of allergic reaction is it? Is it a cross-contamination, an ingestion, something along those lines? That information helps us guide our cooking teams in country and our program leading teams as well. We take students with anaphylactic reactions. We typically like to control them more on our base house programs. Again, as Jesse said earlier, we're able to do all the food shopping. We know the cooks. They're trained and staffed by Rustic Pathways. So we have that level of control as well. So that's the best I can speak in general terms along those lines. But we do have guidelines per country that I should speak to. So in some regions and some programs, it's just not reasonable to take an anaphylactic reaction, for example, on a very remote program that has a few hours away from that definitive or advanced medical care. Once we learn that, and that may be a program that your son or daughter has signed up for, we will then get on the phone. We will help coach you towards a program that is approved, because our program leaders are advanced medical trained as well, but we obviously want to be conservative in what that looks like. So we'll make sure that they enroll on the appropriate program. And then we always advocate that, snacks, trusted snacks from home are brought as well. And then we're very sensitive about what they buy in country or street vendor food or any of that kind of stuff as well. So a lot of time and and effort and investment in that preparation.
Yeah, like I mentioned, and as Dave kind of explained, we can handle most dietary needs, but it doesn't mean that we can handle them on every single program. So quite honestly, there are going to be some programs where we just know that's not a good fit. We can't totally control the risk of foodborne contagions or things like that. So, or for example, speaking outside allergies, if your student is a vegan, we would probably recommend not traveling to Mongolia because they have a very meat-heavy diet, and it's possible to go there, but it's going to be really hard to get the proper proteins and nutrients that you need without bringing a second whole bag of additional food. So we'll talk you through that process, and if you're interested on Mongolia, we may be able to make it happen, but there's going to be certain things that we go through with each family.
That's right.
I do want to go back to the website real quick and show you guys one very useful link underneath the how it works section. When you menu this program types, I find that a really great place for parents and students to start their search. Like I said, we have about 100 different programs. It can be a little overwhelming. Here's a quick reference that you can sort programs by type and by personality. And I see that we have a question, is Costa Rica a base house program? We do have base house programs within Costa Rica. We have about 14 programs within Costa Rica. Some of them are going to be traveling, some of them are base house, some of them are homestay. So there's a variety, but we do have them within Costa Rica. You can click the base house here. We also have our young programs for the middle schoolers aged 12 and 13. And then you can search by personality or interest as well. So this is a really useful page. I click into the base house programs just to give you guys an idea. There's quite a list, and they're located all around the world. So that's something to look into. And on quite a few of the pages, you actually have pictures of our base houses. They are beautiful properties. A lot of them have swimming pools, not all of them, but they often have large fields where students play soccer, and they're beautiful and very safe destinations. And we do have a question about unchaperoned flights, which is a good question. I'll have Dave speak to this. This is if you're joining us from outside the United States, you'll be flying on your own to the destination. Sometimes you can meet up you can meet up on a layover. Sometimes you'll make your whole journey on your own. We also have our spring break programs that are unchaperoned as well. And if you're connecting countries, so if you're going to connect and do a program in Fiji and a program in Australia, super easy to do. The dates actually align, but that flight in between the two countries may be unchaperoned. And so we'll assist the student at both ends, but maybe flying their own, or they may be flying with other students who are doing the same connection.
Yep. What I can add to that is, we're obviously very informative on what you need to know, or your son and daughter needs to know about any flight that isn't with our group flight or our chaperone flight. What that means is, as you're preparing for travel, we understand and we learn that your son or daughter is on an unchaperoned flight. We will connect you with your personal travel advisor. And once you enroll in a program, everybody is assigned an individual personal travel advisor. So whenever you have a question, you're talking to the same person who's responsible for an area. They will help coordinate with the country team, your individual travel arrangements, make sure all the information is there. And then our country team is very aware about what that arrival time looks like, information, contact numbers, how you can get a hold of them as well. We definitely want to veer everybody to our chaperone flights. It's just a great level of comfort that I, as a parent, experience as well. I just want you to leave this part of the conversation knowing that if somebody happens to be on an unchaperoned flight or something, we will provide all that contact information and be very fluid with meeting times, departure times, everything along those lines.
Yeah, and just historically, there was a time beyond memory that we did not require chaperoned group flights for most of our international destinations. And we actually had students that would be on their own flights, and they would be grounded or rerouted and end up in Nicaragua or Japan, or depending on their routing. And we don't have staff there to assist the students. And it was a very stressful time for parents and for us to kind of locate the kids and get the information. And it just makes so much more sense to have the whole group together. Our group contract ensures that the group is kept together. So if there's any changes, the airline cannot break that group up and put the students on a different flight or anything. They keep them with our chaperone and they get there safely. So something to keep in mind for our chaperone group flights.
That's right. I see a question here about, are we educating kids on safe water practices? So as I mentioned a little earlier, we provide all of that water that students will need during program. Again, just bring that reusable water bottle. The area where I see sometimes there's a little confusion, we certainly educate on, is can I use tap water for brushing my teeth or something along those lines, right? So we provide all the bottled and filtered water through community service, all the activities that we do, that's an unlimited supply. But we also educate students upon arrival into country about things to look out for the environment, for the region they're traveling to. That's part of the initial orientation when students do arrive. This is a great opportunity for me to talk a little bit about our program leaders as well. There's another question that comes, how do you handle homesickness or any other type of concern along those lines? So our program leaders, first off, are at least 22 years old. We hire them for experience, college education, their work that they've done with students or in travel as well. We only hire about 25% of our applicants that comes in, maybe even a smaller margin there. So we're very picky about who we hire to lead our programs as well. We provide online training for these program leaders before they come into country. It's about 8 to 10 hours of online training, covers the basics about what it is to be a program leader and their duty of care. And then we reinforce that when they fly into in-country, and we have over a week long of training where not only do we reinforce those principles they've learned online, but we do role playing, acting, and then really dive in deeper to elevate and evolve that learning that they had online. So back to the question about homesickness, we spend a whole lot of time about group dynamics, a whole lot of time on mental health and medical concerns and what could potentially come up. What I can say in short form is our program leaders are very skilled at managing those type of situations, but as I mentioned as well, there's an entire country team and elevated up to the risk and safety team as well that we work through all of those type of issues or concerns as well. And again, if somebody is having homesickness, it's very common that we'll ring up mom and dad as well. And this is what we're dealing with. We're happy to manage this. We want to manage this on the ground, but what would you advise? Have you experienced this before? So we're very fluid in that partnership and working with parents.
Yeah, and as a program leader, every student, as they come onto the program, they're going to sit down one-on-one with the program leaders to go over everything. They'll go over the itinerary, they'll go over the medical forms, make sure everybody's on the same page, and also just to create that open communication.
Yep.
And let the students know if anything ever arises, if you're not feeling well, if stomach-wise, or if you're feeling homesick or anything, please come to us and talk to us. Hopefully that creates that open door, so students are having any issues, they can speak to the program leaders. As parents, if you happen to receive a text from the student saying that I'm not feeling great, my advice to parents is always, can you please ask if they've spoken to the program leader, because that's the best person to reach out to, and they can kind of help the student through that process. It usually, in my experience, is the first couple days as they're starting to get to know their friends. Once they kind of get over that hump, then they're just totally immersed in the experience and having a good time. But
that's right. Yep. And just underscoring the point that the program leader is there and face-to-face can make a change or a corrective action to whatever might be taking place. Mm-hmm. So that's a really important aspect.
We do have a specific question, without going into too many specifics about individual programs. Maximum number of kids that we take on a program such as the Turtle Conservation Project, which goes up to about 18 students. Our average group size is about 12 to 15 students. It usually goes up to about 18. There's certain programs that will go up to about 28, and these are usually our base house programs that divide the groups into smaller groups during the day that do the different service projects, but those are very specific programs. Most of our programs average between 12 and 15 up to about 18 students.
That's right. Another question here about, do many kids travel with a buddy or friends? And would a child traveling alone or without friends be comfortable? My son, who's 14, is going to Costa this summer, and he's not traveling with a buddy. My daughter, when she did her 4 years of high school traveling, she only brought a friend once. And actually it was less enjoyable than actually meeting all new people. The friendships that they make on these programs do last a lifetime. There's lifetime friendships that are formed. So most of our travelers travel alone. It's very infrequent that we have people that bring a buddy or travel with a buddy. Even though it's nerve-wracking to travel alone, this inclusive group, this partnering that we have and the oversight of our program leaders really creates a great community and a great bond.
It is one of the most common questions that we get. Most students think that they're going to be the only one traveling on their own, when in actuality they are in the majority. Most students travel on their own. So
that's right.
Fear not, you're in the majority if you're on your own.
Yep.
And I don't see any other questions. We're going to give you another 10 seconds. We're here as long as you need us. But again, if you do have questions that pop up after this presentation, please feel free to give us a call. There's actually a page on our website. I'm just going to open it up here while I can. You can contact us here. If you open up the menu, contact page, there's a link. There's a couple different resources to reach us. There's also a link right here where you can schedule a call. So we will get, one of us will give you a call at your convenience. It's a really great way to reach out to us. But either way, you've got phone, website, we have the chat when we're on. So all different ways, whatever is most convenient to you. Thank you for joining us. We've got a couple more questions coming in. What is the possibility of an actual turtle sighting? So another program specific question. I will say it varies every year. We can never really tell. Nobody can really tell when the turtles are actually going to hatch. You will see turtles 100% on our turtle program. They just might be adult turtles. So after that, it's kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes it's early, sometimes it's in the afternoon or the later part of the summer. But students will definitely learn about turtle conservation, do lots of really good work down there, and they will see turtles. And with that, if you have any other safety questions, let's see, one great part, let's see this guidelines for phone use. So we did mention this earlier. One more quick talk about cell phone usage. We do, as we mentioned before, want to encourage to completely disconnect as much as possible to fully be present in the experience. Every program is going to be a little bit different as to when they have access to their phones. So if there's a program that's staying at a hotel that offers Wi-Fi, I will quick caveat, there's not a whole lot of programs like that. We try not to have accommodations that offer Wi-Fi because then kids kind of zone in and they forget about everything else. But if they do have access, then they'll be given very specific times when they can use that. Other programs they're going to be super remote and there's not even going to be reception. We don't really encourage families to get international plans. If you do have an international plan and if it actually works when you're in country, again, it's super helpful to have support from the parents, just to have the parents say like, hey, thanks for checking in, get back off your phone, go out there and be with your friends, because it's super tempting for kids. I think they were born with these in their hands. So
our program leaders will not take phones away, but it starts to cross the line when we realize that's going to be a distraction or it's creating a dynamic that is changing that group bonding, that group experience.
Okay, and then if you want to stay longer in Costa Rica, could you change the return? So this is actually, I want to answer on this on two different levels. First of all, programs are all designed to connect in a given country. They begin and end on the same day in the same city. So it's a super easy connection. They're designed this way so that students can build an itinerary that really fits their interests and schedule. If you'd like to stay longer in Costa Rica, we highly recommend combining trips, especially because some of our one-week programs are perfect sort of add-ons if you want to do a language immersion and service, or service and adventure, two different types of service. There's lots of different options there. Once you're already in country, it is possible, but it's hard and expensive. I will say that's from my experience. First of all, the flight is the biggest thing. So if we have a space on the next program, we will do the best we can to make that happen for the student. I know that there's always students that they're a little bit afraid of travel and they end up traveling for a week because they're not sure they can do 2 or 3 weeks. And once they're there, they love it, it's amazing, and they want to stay longer. So every summer we do have this come up a little bit, but the trickiest part is trying to get the student on a return flight and change their ticket last minute. If this is something the student or the family is considering, I would consider setting them up beforehand and having them combine trips and just be in country for a longer period of time, so you don't have to sort of rush and do it last minute and pay that airline change fee.
If there is a situation where family happens to be coming to the country as well, doesn't happen very often, but we're not going to limit that. So we do have a process. There's a form involved, of course, and that's just to make sure that people are connecting and very clear about who's meeting where and what that looks like. So again, it does happen very infrequently, but that's something we can talk to your personal travel advisor about as well.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that we went into depth about personal travel advisors, but I do just want to make a note that if you're brand new to Rustic Pathways, once you enroll, it takes a couple of days to process your application, after which you'll be paired with one of our amazing personal travel advisors. They're a team that is specifically there to help you through the whole entire process, and they're there for you even when your student's traveling. They remain stateside. They're going to help you with your forms, arranging your domestic flights, any other questions that you have that come up. So don't feel like you have to get everything answered before you enroll. Things will definitely come up, but you will have a go-to person. You'll have their direct email and their phone number, so you don't have to go through all the prompts of the main line, and you'll have one person that you can reach out to with any questions, help you through that process.
Good.
Any other questions coming in?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate it. And if anything else comes up, I look forward to talking to you very soon.
Yep.
Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.